As I announced it earlier, the topic of this video is, where does your African language come from? I thought about this question because I understood that the foreign languages that we speak in African countries have an influence in our personality, behavior, and the community, and the way we try to live our life among us in Africa. So where does our our official national language come from? And quote, African official language. It comes from our ancestors. They created our African language. Weren't genius enough? Well, this one, colonizer brought their foreign language in African lands. Colonizer instructed Africans to speak their language so they can communicate better. They taught them how to speak their language while they were working, while they were serving them, but they did it with all their strength. I can't say if they did it with all their heart, but because of the interest they had to teach us, to teach our ancestors how to speak their language so they can communicate. Well, this question is very important. I will just rephrase it again. Does that mean they try to bury the ancestors or the African local language? Not intentionally, because they were thinking about the interest. They were colonizing Africa and they needed Africans to work with them, but they found African with their language. In their mind, they were ready to teach them how to speak their language so they can serve them better. Through one common language, they can communicate. I don't think that they were doing it in the meaning, to sustain that language in the long term. Remember, they came to colonize Africa and they had to bring what they have with them in the lives of Africans so they can rule them by giving them orders and they can understand. And I don't think that, first of all, colonizer themselves, they stood up and start teaching those African slaves how to speak. I remember reading some books and watching some documentaries that the way it was happening, just like this. Yes, so they were giving them orders like in French. Yes, So they were giving them orders. They would shout and insult sometimes. So it was harsh, violent, and the words coming out of their mouth, if I can remember through the story, the history, that Africans were learning bad language, bad words. But if they had a good master, a good colonizer, well, he would teach them, okay, some good words. But then who became teachers, colonized teachers? They are priests. All the white priests who came in Africa along with colonizer, they were teaching slaves families how to speak French, how to speak English. Well, so what are all these African languages? That seems like the colonizers tried to bury it and replace it with their foreign languages. There are many. You know, you have Arabic, you have Kiswahili, you have Tonga, Xhosa, Zulu, Seychelles Creole, Malagasy, Lingala, Yoruba, Igbo. What did I didn't name? I think I named most of them. Well, these are our real languages. Now, the last questions that we may ask ourselves is, so what's the point here? The question, how do you feel when you speak your African language? How do you feel when you speak Yoruba? How do you speak when you speak Igbo? You speak Xhosa, you speak Zulu, you speak Tonga, you speak Swahili. And how do you feel when you speak English, when you speak French? Arabic still their language. Yes. It's funny though. So the sub-Saharan countries are the ones who have completely been influenced by the foreign languages. Can you imagine? I have come with this thought because as African, we agree that we are aware of the influence that a foreign language can have in our behavior. Briefly, a foreign language comes with some influence as change of behavior, change of attitude, change of personality. Remember, when you're surrounded with people who are speaking English, it has also a different attitude, tone, gesture, how you stand. But when you're surrounded by people who are speaking your local language, you see how like you speak Igbo, you speak Yoruba, you speak Swahili, you speak Lingala. Do you see? You speak Zulu. And I heard some white people, foreigners, who noticed that African language comes with a... Okay, let's say it briefly. I heard this comment like Africans tend to shout when they speak. So when you speak like Lingala, you speak loudly. So it's like you speaking it loudly. So your language comes with certain, like with some tone. There is a tone in your language. And when you speak Igbo, you know how you are. It depends. Now the attitude can be amended I mean, behind the education. It can be the education, how you have been raised, and your own self-development, personality, and the environment. But these are the common, I mean, the overall observation, okay, that I notice. So you see, the goal of the video is to remind you that we are African and our ancestors were also genius, just like colonizer. Weren't they genius to instruct us to speak their language? Yes, I think they were genius enough to do so. By the way, what does our language become? Do we bury them? Do we diminish Lingala, Swahili, Zulu, or we promote those language? We give them value. So the point of this topic is, no matter how you master the foreign language, remember that there are still people who have limited access to a good education in Africa. You may live in the same neighborhood, but you may not have the same education. Because look at your house. You're living in the same street, but you don't speak the same way. Why is that? Education, school, environment, influence, all that comes in. No matter where you are now with the language you speak, a foreign language, do not be arrogant, pretentious, and the most worst one is to think that you have arrived, you've done it, and don't look those who haven't mastered the language, don't look them down. Because, so you know where you are with that language and the way you speak it, the way you behave, you are just ahead of them. Because believe it, that they will get there where you are now. Thank you so much for your time, for listening or watching this video. I thank you and I bless you in the name of Jesus Christ. Bye.